Hey everyone, it's Lindsay. Today I am going to make a fun shaker card with some new things that I got from Buttons Galore and more. So the first thing that I did was actually used a cat scrappiness die set. This is the large rectangle from the zigzag rectangle die set, and I'll use that to do some die cutting. I'll use it to die cut a piece of plain white cardstock. Super simple and easy to start off with. Once I have that die cut, I'm going to take that rectangle and do some more die cutting inside of it. I'll use these dies from Simon Says Stamp, these are balloon dies, and just lay them onto the rectangle and run that through the die cutting machine as well. Now I only have two balloons here, so once I have those two cut, I'll go ahead and lay that large balloon right down at the bottom of this rectangle now just to get another balloon cut out. Also, you want to make sure that you're saving the insides of those balloons. We'll use those later on. Once I have those die cut, I'll take that large rectangle and place it on my card base and outline the balloons. This is going to give me a guide where I need to do my ink blending to give those balloons some color. To color each balloon, I'll be doing some ink blending, and to get the placement just right without overlapping any of the other balloons, I'll just tape off with some painter's tape around each outline. Now, once I start ink blending the ink over that pencil line, you won't be able to erase it. So before you start ink blending, after you have the painter's tape down, go ahead and erase those pencil lines. And as I'm blending, I am using the Catherine Pooler ink. This is Party Dress, and an Amazon blending brush to do that ink blending. I'm also going to take that same ink and color up one of those small balloon die cuts that I die cut earlier. Like I said, you want to save the outlines. You want to do the outlines in the actual die cut itself, but you also want to save the inside of the die cut. My next color, I'm using limoncello, and again, just use painter's tape to outline the balloon, erase the pencil mark, and did my ink blending. I'll also go ahead and ink blend one of those die cuts that I had left over too. My final color is Flirty Fuchsia, and again, just doing that right down at the bottom. As I am ink blending, I continually put that die cut over the top just to make sure the ink is exactly how I want it. I have enough on there, all that great stuff. So use that as a guide as you're ink blending. Now for my shaker, I'm going to be using this Duralar film, 0.005 clear film, for the front of my shaker. Whenever you create a shaker, you want to make sure you have something clear over the openings of your die cut. If you don't, all your little shaker bits are going to fall out. So on the back of that die cut, I've placed some adhesive, I've taken off the backing paper, and I'll place down that clear film right over the top of those openings. You want to make sure it's large enough to cover every single hole of that. Now, we need to create some dimension on the back of the shaker so the pieces inside the shaker have enough room to move. I'm using foam tape for this. This is a large roll that I buy from Amazon, and I'm just going to cut it up into the size I need it to place down. Now you can cut this the long way, or you can go right down the middle of this and cut it into thinner strips if you need to. As you're making your shaker, you also want to think about how thick your pieces of your shaker are. So for this, my shaker pieces are a little bit thinner. I'm only going to need one layer of this foam tape. But if you have some thicker pieces in there, maybe some thicker jewels or things like that, you might want to double up or even triple up on your foam. Just remember, the thicker this is, the more dimension it's going to have. So think about how you're going to send this. Are you going to hand deliver your card, or are you going to mail it? If you're going to mail it, you want to go lighter on the dimension. If you're going to hand deliver, go as crazy as you want to. Now, once I have the outline done all around my panel here, I want to go ahead and outline each balloon as well. I don't want my shaker pieces to fall all the way to the bottom. I want each balloon to look like it has some little flowers inside of it. So I'm using that foam tape just to outline the balloons to keep all of those shaker pieces nice and enclosed right inside those balloon openings. If you didn't want to go this route, just remember that all your little shaker pieces will fall down to the very bottom. So if you want to keep them into those openings, make sure you outline it with the foam tape. It takes a little extra time, but it's worth it. Now for my shaker, I am using these new Sprinklets embellishments. This is the Garden Party. These are polymer clay. They are so adorable and they're nice and thin, so they're perfect for that one layer of foam. As I fill this up, I want to mention that I have another piece of that clear acetate off to the left-hand side. That is going to be my backing because I can't flip this over and line it up on top of my card base without everything spilling out. So make sure you either have a piece of clear acetate ready to go. I've also used vellum in the past, especially if it's on just a plain white background and you don't have color behind your balloons or your openings. Vellum is the way to go. It's much cheaper than going the clear acetate route. I'll go ahead and lay that piece of acetate right over the back of that just to enclose everything in once I have all of my shaker pieces filled up with the little polymer clay flowers. So now I can give this a quick test and it works beautifully. The little flowers in there shake, but they stay within the balloons themselves, so you never lose sight of them. Now it's time to attach this to the card base itself. Now, whenever you go to add adhesive to the back of this, just remember that you're still going to see through those openings. So don't put adhesive on those openings themselves, put it around. Then I can go ahead and flip this over and line it up with each one of my ink blended little areas with the balloons themselves. And there I've got some nice colorful balloons with some flowers inside of them that are so adorable. I love interactive cards. They are my most favorite to give. All right, now for those little balloons that we ink blended, it's time to add those to the front of the card. Now to add a little bit more dimension, I'm adding some foam to the back of these as well, just to help pop them away from the shaker cards themselves, or the shaker parts themselves. I don't want these to cover up too much of the shaker, but just a little overlap. And my final little pink balloon I'll actually glue down with some Nuvo adhesive right to the yellow balloon so I don't add so much dimension. Now for the sentiment on this, I'm using some die cuts. I'm using a Celebrate die from Waffle Flower, and I die cut that from some black cardstock. To give this a little backing, I'll be adhering it onto a banner die that I die cut from a banner die set. I used some white cardstock with that, so I'm using some white on black for nice contrast. This is a great technique to use if you're like me and you forget about your sentiment until the last thing, and then you realize that you need a place to put it. I love having die cuts on hand, like the Celebrate one. I use it so often because I often forget about the sentiment until the very last step. I added some foam to the back of that, and then I'll just attach it right in between those two sets of balloons so it's nice and centered on the front of my card. I love the black dye because it pops away from that background so well. Now to finish this card off, I am going to be using some of these ice embellishments from Buttons Galore and More. These are clear little water droplet looking things. They're so gorgeous. And I'm just adding 3 of these around the balloons just for a little bit more fun and to finish off the card so it's not so plain on the front. To glue these down, I use Nuvo adhesive and my Quick Sticks tool, and that finishes off the card. It's a super simple shaker card. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. That does it for me today. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crafting, everyone.